Hey, what's up everybody? It's me, Just Keeks, back with a brand new video. And in today's video, I'll be discussing episode 6 of Netflix's Avatar The Last Airbender live action series, titled Masks. And so with that said and done, ladies and gentlemen, let's jump right into the review. So one thing I want to get out of the way quickly is I just want to say I enjoyed this episode very much, except for one tiny little aspect of it, and that was how they portrayed Roku in this episode. So last episode, Spirit Within, Aang finds out um he finds out Ko's the one that is kidnapping people and stuff and eating their faces, souls or whatever. And Ko has Katara and Sokka, and so he learns that Roku once dealt with Ko, and apparently he stole something from him. And so he goes to kind of find out like what it is, and that's the whole reason for him to go to this fire temple and everything. Unlike the series when it was like because Roku needed to tell him something. Um, Here Roku doesn't send Fang to Aang or anything. He just goes there because he needs information on Ko. And the way they portray Roku, who's played by C.S. Lee in the show, um, he looks great, but he's kind of played more lighthearted than he is in the show. And it just like, from what I remember him in the show, the vibe is like so different. Like when him and Aang meet for the first time, he appears kind of like as this like um his face is in shadow, and he's like, um isn't it customary to bow before your elders and avert your eyes? And then he says, and hop on one leg. So he's like kind of like a jokester in a way. And there, like, I was kind of one thing I was disappointed is like there wasn't really any mention of how he was involved in like the start of like the war and everything and his friendship with Solo, which I'm pretty sure like they're saving that for the season 3 episode, the Avatar: The Fire Lord, which I'm sure is gonna like get adapted. But we do get like a hint as to like his past. He says one thing at one point where something about making difficult choices. Not making choices can lead to difficult consequences. Something like that. So we get like a little hint that he has like this dramatic past and stuff, but it just didn't feel like Roku from the show. And that's the one thing I was kind of disappointed in, um, with the way they went about his character. And I really think, I said this before in my previous reviews, I think the Spirit Away episode, they could have just had that be about Hey Bye, okay? They could have just had that be about Hey Bye, and then have like a different reason for Aang to go see Roku. Like, I think what they should have done is like, okay, Aang meets Kyoshi on Kyoshi Island. That all happens, okay? But she's not the one that tells him about the Northern Warrior tribe, okay? She just shows him like the power of the Avatar State. So all that happens, in that episode, the Kyoshi episode, right? Minus Kyoshi warning Aang about what's going to happen in the Northern Warrior tribe, okay? A show goes on as it does after that. We get the Spirit Away. Take out the co stuff from Spirit Away. It really doesn't need it. Keep the Hey Bye stuff with him kidnapping the villagers. You can even still have Katara and Sokka end up in the spirit world, and they get kidnapped by Hey Bye while they're in there. Okay. Um, you can even still have like the scene with Gyatso. Okay. Um, minus of course minus the co stuff. Maybe Gyatso knows something about Hey Bye and or something. Um, what I would add in. to Spirit Away to have Aang go see Roku is um me personally, I would have Fang, but if it's a budgetary thing, you can find like another reason, like maybe Roku's spirit is appearing to Aang, but it's not a strong enough connection because he needs to go to the statue. But they could have had like Roku or Roku send Fang to appear to Aang, Fang and Aang. Okay, okay. So to kind of give him a message that Roku needed to talk to him, kind of like how they did in the cartoon, right? Okay, and then you still have like the same beats. Maybe I mean you would have to wrap everything up with like the vanishing villagers in the previous episode, which if they just done the Heibai storyline completely, that could have been wrapped up in one. And so then you would have Katara and Sokka with Aang in this episode, but that's besides the point. But all I'm trying to say is I think the reason Aang should have visited Roku in this episode without having to be Ko, I think Roku should have been the one to warn him about the Northern War tribe, because like in the original show, it was the comet that he was warning Aang about, and obviously like the comet's coming, but it's not. But it doesn't. It's not playing a crucial role yet. We just know it's coming. So there's no reason for Roku to like warn about the comet in the season for the live action show. So it would make sense like maybe have him warn Aang about the Northern Water Tribe, and then move the Ko stuff um to the final episode. I think they could still have the Ko stuff in the final episode. They could still have the thing with Avatar Kuruk. Like next episode is episode 7, right? So then you have Avatar Kuruk in that episode, and you could still have that scene, and then that's where Aang kind of learns. He kind of learns not about Ko, but he just learns that Kuruk battled like an ancient spirit that took the love of his life, and then when they need like more information on how to like prevent this war, um the only person they can get it from is this ancient spirit, and so Kuruk will tell Aang, the spirit's name, and then have all that. But that's besides the point. I'm getting into like other episodes and stuff. But anyways, like I said, just the one downside to this episode, like, was just Avatar Roku's portrayal in the episode. Let's move on, folks. Alright, so this episode is really a combination of both the storm and the blue spirit. So with the storm aspect, we have Aang going off by himself to find a way to like help Katara and Sokka, who are unlike in the cartoon where they were just sick. Here they're trapped like in the spirit world. They've been kidnapped by Ko, as was seen from the last episode. And then we also get Zuko's backstory and his Anakai with Ozai in this episode, which we hear about in the storm, is done a little bit differently here. We get like a little more like insight into it, and we actually get to see the fight. Which in the cartoon, it just seemed like Ozai kind of just struck him once. Where in the show live action version, they have Zuko kind of hold his own. Um, but he, well, I'll get into the fight in a little bit. But the flashbacks were really good, and I loved how we got to see uh Dallas Liu play like a younger Zuko, and they did a really great job at making him look like 13. And then one thing I love is the transition from like this younger Zuko to the older Zuko that you see in this episode. Because you just see like younger Zuko, he's so like full of life. He's so happy. He's so glad to be part of like stuff. You can see him like he's glad that he gets to be like going to this war console. Probably should listen to his uncle Iroh. I'm not talking too much, but that's besides the point. But then there's like a transition where you like see like the young, happy 13-year-old Zuko, and then like it transitions to the older he's been through some hard times. He's you know a little bitter, and how life has treated him. Those are some really cool like transitions. Oh man, and the War Council meeting was such a great scene. I especially love how it's more, how like this general kind of uh kind of poked at him. We walked up to him. He's like, this isn't something you learn in a textbook. Little boys should know better than play at war. And Zuko just like talks back, and everything calls him out for his terrible plan. And just see uh Daniel Day Kim as Ozai in that scene. He does so great. Like I said, the Agni Kai scene is so wonderful. Probably one of the best scenes in the whole episode is like this Agni Kai fight scene between Ozai and Zuko. And just we see that Zuko doesn't want to do anything. He's not very good. Like Ozai is just coming at him with like everything. And he's demanding that Zuko does the same. And just when we see like when it seems like Zuko has like the upper hand, even Ozai notices. You see like for like a split second, Zuko has the upper hand, and Zuko doesn't take that because in his mind, like it's like I guess he thought like Ozai would think that because he just had the upper hand, and then take that advantage, he would see that as a sign of respect. Ozai did it, and basically tells him like compassion is weakness, and we've seen Zuko's like reaction to things such as compassion. Um, and we kind of say like this is like his reason, like, and we see Ozai burn Zuko's eyes. I'm sorry, not eyes, just one eye. We see that happen, and it's a pretty intense. Of course, they don't actually they don't show him burning his eye, but like you you see the reaction of like everybody, and then there's like tears in Ozai's eyes, and after this he's like seeing talking to Zuko about strengthening his spirit, and that's when he tells him that he's banished until he finds the Avatar because of all this. But then they added like a really interesting element here. So during the War Council meeting, what they're talking about is they're basically talking about sacrificing um, an army division known as like the 31st, which is like young recruits and everything, and that's what Zuko speaks up against about, and the whole reason for the Agni Kai with his father and all that. So what ends up happening is that like Ozai tells Zuko, while he's recovering from the Agni Kai, that if he's so concerned about the 44th division, he can take them as his crew. So Lieutenant G and all these like crew members who kind of like they all have like, especially to Lieutenant G that we've been seeing throughout the season. I've been waiting to talk about this. Lieutenant G is such a great character in this season that I'm kind of disappointed that we might. I'm hoping he comes back for season two. Um, he was not like in the cartoon. He was only prominently in like one, maybe like one episode. Definitely, he was probably in, and that was the storm. Um, and then like you kind of saw him like here and there in the background. Um, but they gave him like a little more. He's still like a background character in the live action version, but he has like a little more like substantial role. And just adding in this little fact, like as the season goes on, from like the first episode, um, his chemistry with Zuko, like he does not like Zuko for the way how he treats him and everything, and but he doesn't know this fact that if it wasn't for Zuko, he'd be dead. And so he finds out all this from Iroh in this episode, and it leads to the most like um touching, heartwarming scene in the whole episode at the end, where we see Zuko returning from trying to capture Aang, which I'm gonna get into all that in a second. To the boat, and after Lieutenant G and I'm pretty sure he told like the other crew members and everything, they give Zuko a bow as he walks back to his quarters, and it's a very powerful scene. It was shown in the trailer, so you'll probably know what I'm talking about if y'all haven't seen the show. If you haven't seen the show and you're watching a review for it, it's kind of weird, but whatever. But yeah, so the flashbacks, Zuko's backstory, and everything. I loved how they expanded on all that stuff. The 44 having the 44th Division be a part of his crew and everything. That adds like so many more elements to it and everything, and shows that Zuko is actually like a caring person and everything, and he's still got like a growth to go through. But anyways, let's move on. So basically, Aang's storyline in this episode is, of course, he goes, like I said, he goes to Roku to get information on Ko, and he learns that Roku stole like a totem from Ko that was like a little totem of the Mother of Faces, Ko's mother, that Ko wants back. So Aang decides he's gonna bring that back to trade in for like everybody's lives and everything, including Katara and Sokka. Um, as he comes out of the temple, he is greeted by the paralyzed bodies of all the fire sages, and we even get to which I was always cool in the cartoon, how we got to see like the sheer shoes kind of like vision, smell vision, whatever you want to call it. But curiously enough, what I find interesting is that I guess all the fire stages smell the same. It's like, which is kind of curious. But yeah. So I just thought that was a little cool, like imagery. So yeah, he gets struck by the sheer shoe, and he wakes up to meet June and finds out that Iroh and Zuko have hired her to capture him, and so now he's being taken back to Zuko's ship. Um, when Zhao shows up in this episode, Zhao has been like promoted to admiral, so he's taking over like all operations of trying to find the Avatar, and he's taking over like Zuko's ship. For the most part, at least like in the beginning of this episode. Um, and Zhao is starting to become like really serious. Like we're really starting to see like the hot headedness that he had like in the cartoon. Cause like when Zhao first comes into the picture in this live action version, he doesn't have that like that flair about him. Like he's an important person. Like he's still like in the cartoon when you first meet him, he's still just like a commander and stuff. So he's nobody really important, but he has status. Like he has status. This show you kind of see like that he's kind of just like a nobody, just working on like in the colonies, really, not doing much. And then his the fact that he is working with Azula and stuff kind of gives him that in to kind of move up the ranks. And here we see him become an admiral, and we start to kind of see like his hot headedness, if you want to call it that, and his like ego, and how it can like ultimately destroy him, because he's convinced that he has the Avatar now, and that this is it. He's in big time now, and of course the Blue Spirit comes to ruin everything. And talking about the Blue Spirit, I just way like the scene of like the Blue Spirit rescuing Aang and all that. Of course, obviously we know it's Zuko, right? And all that is very well done. It's pretty much how it plays out like in the cartoon, even with the those big like staffs that they were hanging on and like pole vaulting from. They have that here. The mask looks just like how it does in the cartoon. The only thing to me that the only problem I have with the mask is that it just looks too big. It looks too big. But it's cool. It's cool. I like it. It just looks heavy. It just looks heavy. And I just think it looks good, but it also looks funny and heavy, and yeah. Um, so we have Aang of course finds out this blue spirit is Zuko, and before we get the scene where he talks about Kuzan, we get like a quick little scene of the two of them in like this like little cabin where they're hiding out from like the Fire Nation soldiers and Zhao and all that. And this is where they kind of like a one-on-one conversation and get to know each other a little better. Which is very fun scene that we get. It was great to see that. Because we didn't really get like any of that like in the cartoon, of course, because Zuko is just like his whole mission is just be after Aang and get his honor back. Um, but to see kind of like this like kind human moment between and just Aang's realization of like he kind of starts to like get an idea of like why Zuko is the way he is when he by his reaction of when Aang tells him he can have compassion unlike his dad, and Zuko's reaction to that and everything, and as we saw the whole reason for that reaction and his flashbacks and stuff. But this was like a really great scene and a really great interaction between Aang and Zuko. And I hope maybe we like kind of with the Aang and Iroh scenes that we got earlier this season. I hope we get like maybe like one or two more of these and like in the next season as well. Just a little simple scene where they interact. It would be cool. But yeah, we have Aang and Zuko, the little scene I talked about earlier. Zuko gets knocked out, and when he comes to, he wakes up, in his boat. And then we have that scene that we had in the cartoon where Aang talks about how he had friends, all over the world, even in the Fire Nation. And, a boy named Kuzan, and he asked Zuko if if they were friends back then, when things have been different. And of course, Zuko shoots a fireball at him, and Aang does a backflip and airbends his boat out into the water and gets away. And that's kind of like where everything ends with them and with this episode. Um, like I said, it's a really great episode. We see Aang return back to the spirit world and get like he brings Ko's totem to him and everything, and wraps all that guitar and Sokka and other villagers, out of the spirit world. He just tried to go see Gyatso again, but Gyatso had left, which I was really disappointed. And I kind of knew that was coming because you kind of get that hint in the last episode when Aang is saying, like, I'll come see you after, I save my friends. You can kind of tell that Gyatso knows that he's not going to be there. Like, which is really, it's funny because why did you say something? But, it was the point that Aang saved his friends too. But I digress. Um, and of course, Zuko gets back to his ship, and all that stuff happens. So all in all, I would say I'm gonna give this episode 9 out of 10. I really like it. It's a really good episode. Everything is done well. The stuff with Roku, I feel like could have done his character a bit more better. Um, if he comes back in the future, um, I'm not saying like Roku doesn't have like a little like joking side to him. We do see some of that like in the cartoon, but it's very subtle. The one thing I can think of is like when Roku showed Aang his flashbacks in the Avatar and the Fire Lord, and he talks about how like being the Avatar helps with the ladies at one point, something like that. Here, it just seemed like they were going with like a old fool kind of vibe with it. But you know, we'll see. We'll see how they do. We'll see how they do in the future. Anyways, like I said, I'm gonna give this 9 out of 10. I hope you all enjoyed the video, you guys. If you did, please drop a like, leave a comment down below, and I'll see you all in the next one. Love you guys.